Welcome everyone to Receiving Noor weekly Quran study. We are continuing to study Surah 14 with Dr. Yamina. And as usual, you are welcome to join in with your comments and questions during the discourse, or you can also ask them or share them at the end of the discourse. We'll go for close to an hour, or a little less or a little more, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. Bismillah. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina.
Thank you, Islam. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Actually, before we start from verse 42, if you have anything to share about your impressions, your reflections on this Surah Ibrahim so far, that'll be nice to hear where we are. Your impressions, at least. Anyone? Okay, so I'll carry on, but if you can anytime something comes to your mind, you can share, inshallah. So in Ayah 42 and 43, we are told, استعيذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تحسبن الله غافلا عما يعمل الظالمون إنما يؤخرهم ليوم تشخص فيه الأبصار مهطعين مقنعي رؤوسهم لا يرتد إليهم طرفهم وأفئدتهم هواء. And do not think that God is unaware of what the wrongdoers are doing. He only grants them respite until the day when their sight will be transfixed, while they will be rushing and running confusedly to and fro, with their heads upraised, unable to look away from what they shall behold, and their hearts will be hollow. So, Ayah 42, this Ayah 42 and 43 is about the Day of Judgment and how the state of the wrongdoers on the Day of Judgment. And it connects explicitly with the previous Ayah. If you remember, the previous Ayah 1441 was the last sentence of Ibrahim alayhi salam's prayer, his dua, when he said, رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ. Forgive me and my parents and all the believers on the day of reckoning, the day of judgment. But apart from this explicit reference to the day of judgment on the previous ayah, the general theme of this surah, if you remember so far, has been an answer to why we need to follow the guidance that the messengers of God bring to us. So in the first ayah of this surah, we were told, Alif Lam Ra, a book we have sent to you in order that you might bring forth people from darkness into light, into the light, by their sustainers' permission, onto the way of the Almighty, the one to whom all praise is due. And on the fourth ayah, we were told, and we have never sent forth a messenger except then that with a message in his own people's tongue, so that he might make the truth clear unto them. But God lets go astray him that wills to go astray, and guides him that wills to be guided, for he alone is almighty, truly wise. So the first ayah was about the message, being the message sent by God. God is sending this book. For us, it's the Quran, but he sent scriptures and revelation to all people since the time of Adam alayhi salam. And with this guidance, with this message, he's guiding us from darkness into the light, on the way of the Almighty, the one who's to whom all praise is due. And we talked about the way of the Almighty, the way of God, is what the messengers are calling us to follow. And on the fourth ayah, it was explicitly follow the messengers. Why? Because they are the ones who not only bring the message, but the message is not only a book that I bring. A book here is really an address, a divine address, not necessarily a book, because it was not a book when it came. It was a speech. But that divine, they not only bring the divine speech, but they live by that divine guidance. So their life also embodies the guidance. So to follow them in the way they live, in the way they listen to the divine guidance and live accordingly, is how we follow the divine guidance. And we were told why we had to follow that divine guidance. We were told how not following the prophets, the messengers, amounts to rejecting the light of divine guidance, which results in the darkness of shirk. And we saw how shirk is dhulm, is a great injustice, because it leads to wrongdoing, to transgression, to oppression, to exploitation, to all kinds of injustices. So like shirk is at the root of all kinds of injustices, inward, within ourselves, and outward. And then the consequences also, we talked about the consequences, some of the consequences. Here in this word, like the pain of separation, because when we live in mindlessness and when we don't follow divine guidance and we are mindless, then we forget that everything is passing, constantly flowing, and we live in that small bubble of self-deception or delusion as if we'll be here forever. And whenever something reminds us of the reality of this world, then we suffer from the pain of separation, the pain of death is coming. Our youth is leaving us. If you love your child as a baby, he's growing up and everything is changing and you can't hold anything in your hand. Anything we strive to achieve, it either leaves us or we know that we will leave it. Nothing, because nothing lasts, everything is ephemeral. And also there is the human conscience, even if it's limited, because we don't always see the impact of our wrongdoings. We're not always even aware that something we're doing may be a wrongdoing. So these were the consequences in this life, but there are also the more important, the clear consequences that cannot be changed anymore in the hereafter. And that's what these ayats are talking about. We also talked about how the wrongdoer harms his own self. It's a theme that is repeated in the Quran, that whenever people follow the wrong path, anything deviating from the path of God, the path of justice, the path of divine guidance, the straight path, is the wrong path. And one of the meanings of dhulm is actually to deviate from the right path. So when people deviate from or follow any wrong path, it will lead them to wrongdoings, outer wrongdoings as well, like exploiting others, bullying others, oppressing others. And it seems like they are benefiting themselves. They're taking from others and benefiting themselves. But in reality, we are told they are only damaging their own selves. They are only damaging their life in this world and in the next world. Because in this world, they are destroying their humanity. They're destroying their human potential, which is to be Khalifa, to be a representative of God on earth, to reflect and act upon the laws of the divine names. One of them is justice and compassion and generosity and helping. And so we learned that actually they think that they may be benefiting themselves, but they are not truly destroying others when they are destroying others by their actions, but they are destroying their own lives and themselves. They are destroying their life here and, more importantly, their future, their life in the hereafter. And I'm not going to go there, but before we talked about when a wrongdoer does wrong to me, what I do with that wrong action becomes, if I am a muhsin and I'm aware that everything happens by God's permission, that everything is created, because we choose what to do and Allah creates it. So as far as I'm concerned, the other person, the wrongdoer, is a wrongdoer. He's making the wrong choices. However, as far as I'm concerned, it is created. So I'm not, my focus is not on the other party, on the wrongdoer, but my focus is primarily on what is going on here and now. It is happening by God's live. So when I live with that awareness, with that state of ihsan, my interaction with the world, with the consequences of those actions will totally take another meaning for me. And then I will be able to take a stand against wrongdoings with wisdom, grounded in that awareness, grounded in that ihsan. I will act in the name of God and not just reacting to the other person, then I become a wrongdoer as well. So it's not being passive and accepting injustice without saying anything, but it is responding to injustice in a just and wise way. And we can only do that when we live with that awareness that everything is created by God here and now, even when it is the action of a wrongdoer. So the wrongdoer, at the end of the day, the actions of the wrongdoer are only going to harm the perpetrator himself. And we are told in the Quran, those who have squandered their own selves, it is they who refuse to believe. In Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6, Ayah 20. We have something similar in Surah Al-A'raf, Surah 7, Ayah 53. هم الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون. Those who, the wrongdoers, they are the ones who they lost themselves, they squandered, they wasted themselves. And we are told also about those wrongdoers who deny the message of the messengers. They destroy none but themselves, but they perceive it, they do not perceive it. وَإِن يُهْلِكُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They're not aware that what they are doing, they think they are destroying others to benefit themselves, but actually they are only destroying themselves. In this world, only the muhsins will be able to see that they are destroying themselves. In Akhirah, even themselves will be able to see it. And in Surah Al-A'raf, which is Surah 7, Ayah 177, we are told, evil is the example of people who deny our signs, our ayat. For it is against their own selves that they are sinning. So when people deny or belie the ayat, the signs of God, in in the scripture, in the revelation, for us, like in the Quran or in any divine scripture, and also in the creation. In the creation, there is a law of retribution. There is a law of compassion. So when they are denying the signs of God, they are actually only wronging their own selves. ساء مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآياتنا وأنفسهم كانوا يظلمون. They were only wronging their own selves. And in Surah Al-Nahl, Surah 16, Ayah 33, we are told, and when they were destroyed, it was not God who wronged them, but it was they who had wronged themselves. When people are destroyed, وَمَا ظَلَمَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَكِنْ كَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ. It's not that God wrongs anyone. This theme is repeated again and again in the Quran, that we can only wrong ourselves. So we have to be very careful. And this is something that we will see clearly to the extent that we ourselves live with the clarity of Iman, with the clarity of Ihsan, inshallah. But still in this world, there is of course the possibility of numbing our senses. We talked about this. And so we can always minimize the pain of separation, the pain of wronging ourselves and everything by escaping the reality. We can always keep ourselves busy with other things through ghafla, through mindlessness. Although deep down the soul knows, although deep down everyone has a fear of death, but because we live in ghafla, because we are not aware, we think they're not there. It's like the ostrich. It's said that when the ostrich sees the hunter, it puts its head in the sand, but the whole body is out there. Okay, but as far as it's concerned, it doesn't see. So, but in Akhirah, there will be no such possibility. Everyone will have to face the reality. And that reality for the wrongdoers will be a painful, very painful, horrible reality. And everyone will have to account for their deeds, since the wrongdoings affected others as far as they are concerned. Not only people, but it could be everything. Even nature now is changing. Subhanallah, everything can be affected by what we do. And when we say deeds here, it's not only outer actions, but all outer actions starts inside. So our thoughts are also kind of unseen inner actions as well. Our words are actions, and we can change things through words, for instance. So action is not going and moving something only. So when we think of Akhirah, we think of, usually in the Quran, the accountability and requital. So for instance, in Surah Al Imran, Surah 3, Ayah 185, we are told every human being is bound to taste death, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, which means everyone will go. But only on the day of resurrection, you will be requited in full. So here, we are given the opportunity to make istighfar, to ask for forgiveness, to make tawbah, to go back to the right path, to grow in our awareness. But on the day of resurrection, that's the day of requital. And everyone will be requited in full. And in Surah Al-Jathiyah, Surah 45, Ayah 21, we are told, to those who indulge in wrongdoings, in bad deeds, actually, sayyi'at, do those who indulge in wrongdoings think that we place them both in their life and their death on an equal footing with those who have believed and do righteous deeds? It means those who believe and act accordingly, righteously, are not going to be the same as those who either believed superficially or totally were totally unaware of belief or disbelieved, or there are those who consciously deny. And accordingly, they follow the wrong path and cause lots of wrongdoings, some only to themselves, and many cause lots of wrongs to others as well, and to the whole world, to the planet even. Bad indeed is their judgment. Of course, they are not going to be the same. Meaning with regard to this life and to the next. So the believers in this life, for instance, they find that inner peace, that tranquility, even in the worst situation. But the wrongdoer, they cannot find happiness even in the best conditions in this world. They can never be satisfied because the human heart, the human soul cannot be satisfied with something that is passing and transient. There is nothing to hold on to. And inside there is not knowing that craving for lastingness that can never be satisfied unless you find God and surrender to Him. So all these are indications to the consequences in the hereafter as well. So we have indications in this world about what's going to happen in the hereafter. In the next ayah in Surah Al-Jathiyah 45:21 was, do they think that those who indulge in wrongdoing and that we will place them both in this life and in their death on like equal footing with those who have believed and do righteousness? Bad indeed is their judgment. The next ayah 22 is, for God has created the heavens and the earth in accordance with truth, meaning for a true purpose, and has therefore willed that every soul shall be rewarded according to its deeds, and none shall be wronged. So there is no fear to be wronged by God. However, we only need to fear that we will be accountable. So we have to prepare accordingly. And so in ayah 42, we are told, do not think that God is unaware of what the transgressors, the wrongdoers are doing. He only grants them respite until the day when their sight will be transfixed. We can read this ayah in two ways. As usual with every ayah, we can read it as referring to ourselves. So it's a warning, and it's a very compassionate, merciful warnings. Be mindful, it's telling us. Reflect. You only live once. We only live once in this worldly life. So make sure you're living right, because if there is truly an ultimate purpose, if there is truly akhirah, and remember, it's not like maybe there is akhirah. No. Iman bil akhirah is you have to be certain, convinced, yaqeen, you have to have yaqeen. Then, if there is akhirah and I'm not aware of it, can you imagine? What a big shock it will be when we get there. So with better, this is something very, very momentous, very important in our life. Like, you can leave everything and give the priority to this until you are sure, you make your choice. I found all the evidences and I know that there is akhirah, and therefore, when you are sure in your heart, you will start living from that certainty. But if I'm not sure, then I carry on living from my unchecked beliefs, which have nothing to do with akhirah. So it's something very important, and we better find out the truth and live accordingly. Remember, Iman bil akhirah is the first pillar of faith after belief in God. It is very much emphasized in the Quran, And there is this word yaqeen used again and again when it comes to akhirah. And we talked about it many times. In Surah Al-Anfal, Surah 8, Ayah 24, we are told, O you who have attained, O you who have believed, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who have believed, respond to the call of God and the messenger whenever he calls you unto that which gives you life. And know that God intervenes between human and his heart, and that unto him you shall be gathered. It says, respond to the call of God and the messenger whenever he calls you, because who calls us to the call of to God? The messengers. And when the messengers calls us, they give us all the evidences from the outer world and from within ourselves that God is calling us. We know, we deep down, everyone can find it when we have a little bit of awareness and intention. And know that God intervenes between human and his heart, and that unto him we shall be gathered. There is no escape. We will all go back there, so we'd better prepare and get ready now. And the second reading would be, we can also read Ayah 42 as referring to the wrongdoers out there. Because in this world, especially in cases of injustice, unless we live with ihsan in the presence of God, it seems unfair. And sometimes it seems really, really very unfair, especially when innocents are being wronged for no reason, like wars. And modern wars are really horrible, because it's not like in old days they fought with swords, so the casualties were very limited. But now it's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people die, and everything is destroyed. Not only people, and the after war, for years people suffer directly and indirectly. For instance, so when we see things like this, part of us at least asks, where is God? Where is God in all this? How could something so horrible happen? And so this ayah is telling us, do not think that the wrongdoers will get away with anything. Do not think that God is not aware of what's going on. Meaning, mind your business. Where is your responsibility? And I can only mind my business if I am listening. In order to listen, I have to intend to live with awareness. When I am aware and I intend to follow the divine guidance, then divine guidance is light. My words start being light, and I start seeing the wisdom in what is happening. And also I will be imparted with the wisdom of how to respond, what to do, how to be. Otherwise it'll be like frantic, like in a state of panic, and we will be always reactive. And so everything in the world will have power over us. When things are as we like them to be, we are happy. Anything changes, we become unhappy. But when we live in ihsan, when we are grounded in that connection with the merciful, with our Rabb here and now, then things outside don't change who we are, how we are. Because we are aware that they are ayat. We actually perceive them as ayat. We interact with them as ayat. Ayat means they are not happening randomly, haphazardly. They are created on purpose, for a purpose, with meaning, with rahmah. And we start seeing the purpose in everything. And we start also acting in alignment with that purpose. I'm not going against it, inshallah. So when we say, like, where is God? What's going on? It's telling us, okay, the wrongdoers will not be able to get away with it, because God is here. He's aware of everything here and now. And also I need to confirm this ayah here and now. So the wrongdoers mentioned here are those who indulge in the belief. Remember in the ayah 30, for instance, and things, they indulge in shirk. And shirk was the belief that, yes, okay, even if you don't deny God, I don't deny God, but other things are also important. Other things are also sources of power, sources of, they have some control. They are important. I need that, otherwise I can't live without this and that. And thus they commit the only unforgivable sin of shirk. And consequently, they aspire to control those powers, because I cannot rely on God, because I do not have the certainty and the awareness that God is the Rabb, everything is in his control. I believe that other things have powers to control, so I try to acquire those things, to control those powers. And we end up wronging ourselves and others. People end up wronging themselves and others, because there'll be a fight for those resources, those means of what we think are means of power and sources of power apart from God. And that's why Ibrahim alayhi salam, the first thing he asked in his dua, in his prayer, was protection from shirk, because he knows that shirk is the root cause of all dhulm, all wrongdoings, all injustices, all transgressions. And then he asked help in acting righteously. He wanted to stay in that tawheed, stay away from shirk, means staying in the way of God, staying in tawheed, and to act righteously accordingly. And he asked then for mercy and forgiveness on the day of judgment. And then comes ayah 42, and do not think that God is unaware that the wrongdoers of what the wrongdoers are doing. Meaning that the wrongdoers will definitely be held accountable in subtle ways in this world, and openly and clearly in the hereafter. And therefore the wronged will be avenged. Because it seems to us that the wrongdoers will never pay for their wrongs. When we forget about akhirah, when we don't live with the awareness that everything happening right now is an activity of rububiyyah, whether we like it or not, when we don't have that awareness, when that perception is not part of who we are, we may know it, but it's not who we are, then it seems like the wrongdoers are getting away with things. It seems like they will never pay for their wrongs. I heard this from elderly people who prayed and everything, and saying like, look at them, like they get away with everything. And it does seem like that. There is a part of us that sees it like that, and if we are on the path of living with intentionally with ihsan, then we will take that as an opportunity to grow, as an opportunity to answer that part of us and convince it. And each time we answer those doubts, we grow stronger, inshallah, and more certain. So if it seems like the wrongdoers will never pay for their wrongs, it would mean that either God is unaware, or that God knows, is aware, however, he's unable to exact retribution, or that God is aware and he has the power, yet he's not bothered with their wrongdoings. The first option, God is unaware of what they are doing, this is impossible. We've seen repeatedly since we've been studying the Quran together how everything in the creation are ayat indicating an all-knowing maker. Everything is created knowingly, and there is nothing that happens without being created, therefore without God being aware of it. Therefore the maker the creator is aware of his creation. And this creator, this single, there is only one unique creator, creates everything, every event, everyone's action. We choose and God creates. And that's why we're responsible, because of our choices, not because we have the power to create anything. So God is aware. He's aware of everything. The second is, God knows, however, he's unable to exact retribution, it seems like. Or we don't think this, but if we think that the wrongdoers are getting away with their wrongdoings, then one of the assumptions will be that God is not doing anything to them. If he knows, then maybe he's not unable. And that's again impossible, because the whole creation again, as well as each being, each event, testify to the Maker's all-encompassing power. And we talked about it many times, how we go from one thing, and because everything is interconnected, if for one thing to exist right now, the whole universe, the whole world, the whole of creation, in the past and in the future, has to be as it is now. Therefore, the creator of one single particle, one single atom, has to be the creator of everything. Therefore, the creator has all-encompassing power. Well, this is just the summary. We went into the details when we discussed that. Like in Surah Al-Ra'd, which is the surah that's before Surah Ibrahim, Surah 13, for instance. And the third option would be that, okay, God is aware and he has the power, yet he's not doing anything, as if he's not bothered with people's wrongdoing. And we know this is not true, and the best indication for this is ourselves. We have been created with the dislike of wrongdoing, with the dislike of injustice. We don't like it, let's say. And that itself, that dislike for injustice and wrongdoing is an ayah. It is an indication that whoever created us does not like injustice. Because where did we get that sense from? Whoever created us with the sense of not liking injustice. And as I always say, we cannot use that against God. We only use that against the creator when we come from a state of disconnection from the creator, of separation, that delusion that we exist independently of God. And then I say, okay, you're the creator. How come you are creating these things? Okay, if he is the creator, then we are created here and now. We are being created together with our dislike for injustice. So if he's creating that dislike in me, I cannot use it against him. I will use it as an ayah. I will ask, so there is injustice out there, and you gave me this sense of not liking it. What's the deal here? And our question starts changing. And then we will feel the need for divine guidance, because we don't know how to solve this problem. But the solution is in the Quran. And then we will feel the need, and we will go and listen carefully. And then we will see how the answer is not only a knowing and information, it is a healing, it is rahmah, it is a living answer. It tells us, it is guidance, it tells us how to be, it tells us the wisdom of what's going on, it tells us how everything is an ayah, how to listen to them, how they are actually speaking to us, and how they are right now occurring, happening with purpose and meaning. And the whole, our experience of life and will be totally transformed, inshallah. So that means that God is well aware of what the wrongdoers are doing, and he will hold them accountable for all their wrongdoings, as we are told repeatedly in the Quran. However, it is also God's will for reasons we cannot always fathom, because our knowledge is acquired knowledge and it's extremely limited. And we have to be aware that with our very limited knowledge, we cannot always understand everything. Even when we understand some hikmah, some wisdoms, some purposes, it doesn't mean that we got it all. And that's why we need to trust God and rely on Him and surrender to Him. And it is God's will that everyone is given respite until the day of judgment. So we are told in Sura Ayah 42, and do not think that God is unaware of what the wrongdoers are doing. He only grants them respite. And when we can reflect on one of the many wisdoms. Imagine every time someone does wrong, there is an immediate and very clear consequence and punishment for it. We'd have no opportunity to reflect, no opportunity to consider options, no opportunity to actually make intentional decisions. We would be forced into a path with no say at all, and we wouldn't appreciate the path of righteousness because we won't be able to go out of it anyways. Which means there will be no free will and no choice. That's why we are given that respite, so that everyone has the opportunity to reflect and make the right decisions and grow spiritually and be ready for Akhirah, inshallah.
Sister Yamina.
And so, yes?
I want to add something here. This imagination is thinking that what if every time we did something wrong, we immediately saw the punishment or the consequence, then we would actually have no free will. The same kind of analysis goes for the evil in the world, I think, because let's say we say why does the world have this much suffering? It could have been less, okay, I mean, suffering has to be in the world, so we need to appreciate the good, and good, if there's no bad, we can't appreciate, but it could be less, but then if you go with that thought, like whatever it was less, then we would say, well, why is this much, because we don't know the more of it. Now in this,
we don't. What's the criteria?
Yeah, because in this world, the most horrible you can do is to torture somebody. It's horrible, and you kill the person. After the person is dead, you can't continue to torture the person. I mean, you can torture, but he won't feel any pain. Like there's a limit to what you can do. But if that's the kind of the limit. But then if there was something else, then we would say, why is this the limit? Couldn't it be less? Couldn't it be less? I think if there was nothing in the world at all, the worst thing was an innocent child's knee getting bruised, then we would say, why is this poor innocent child knees being bruised? Because that's the worst thing we can think of.
And
that doesn't justify, that doesn't mean we will celebrate the horrible things happening in the world. As you said, our indignation, our resentment about these things is God telling us it's given from God, from our Creator. So that doesn't mean we're going to celebrate. It's not possible in our fitrah. If you're true to your fitrah, we will find these horrible instances horrible. It's just that it's not in itself. It's relative. You can't say why this much, because whatever it is, it will never be. If it is bad, if it is suffering, it will not be soothing.
And together with that question itself is a false question. It comes from false assumptions about the world and where we stand. Like when I'm asking those questions, I am in the state of disconnection with my Creator. So I'm assuming a creator, but I'm assuming as if I am not created, as if whatever is happening is not created. So the question itself comes from an inconsistent world perception. That's why it leads us nowhere. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand. But if you could say a little bit more, like like when we say, do you mean that like when I say, okay, I understand that there should be some evil, so that there will be a test, and we will have a freedom to choose, and we'll appreciate it.
Let me put it this way. So your question and the answer you gave is something that we go through in our journey to seek guidance. So when we find out that this is all relative, at the end of the day, however little injustice there is, because we were created with that dislike of injustice, we will never say, okay, I'm okay with this much injustice. We will always say, well, this shouldn't be here. And so it leads us to say, to a point where, okay, so what's the answer? So does it mean, because it feels like, does it mean that I have to accept what is without understanding? Like, okay, this is how it is. What can we do? Like resign. Do you say resign in English? Resign to this
Yes.
reality. But when I come to that point, it comes to the point when I feel the need for an explanation, something that will satisfy my heart, that will, because otherwise it will be like, however little, however small the injustice is, if we don't know its purpose, if it seems like it's just coming randomly, then it won't, we will be dissatisfied. We will be, it's difficult to accept the situation. But then that's where the journey towards seeking guidance starts. We start asking the real question. So what is the purpose in all this? And then we get the wrong answers. And then I realized that I could not get the right answers because I was asking the wrong questions. Because when I seek guidance, I don't know it's divine yet. When I start hearing the guidance of the Quran for us, for instance, then it tells me, look, you are created, everything, once we know the Creator through our own createdness, through everything's createdness. So I cannot start asking questions where I am independent of the creation. I'm not part of the process of creation, and I'm asking as if I'm an independent observer asking about what's going in the world. Because even what we say in justice or justice is, we filter it through our own perception. So I start asking questions, being mindful that I am created right now, that my dislike for injustice is being created. I'm created with that dislike. And so the questions shift. And with the shifting of the questions, the answers also start being more meaningful. And that's what one of the things that we learn in the Quran is how to ask questions that lead to consistent
Okay, Sister Yamina, we stopped hearing you.
Sorry, I think there was a disconnect. So for the wrongdoers, we are told in Ayah 42 and 43, the day of judgment will be a horrible day. And how do we know? There is no description of the day, by the way. There is no description of what's going on. We only get a description of the wrongdoers themselves. We are told that their sight will be transfixed, which means their eyes will be wide open. So, but we are not told what they will see. But we get this image, it's very graphic, this image of these people who their eyes are wide open, they look like their sight is transfixed. They'll be running confusedly to and fro. They don't know where they are doing. You feel a state of panic. And their head would be upraised, like looking up as if in a state of supplication. And they will be unable to look away from what they shall behold. We don't know what they are beholding, but they will be so like hypnotized. Something very, very, something is going on that they can't take their eyes away from it. But they are looking with very wide eyes. So there is fear, horror. That's how I feel from the imagery here. And their hearts will be hollow, which means they won't be able to divert their eyes from whatever, we don't know. And there will be a void in their hearts. Can you imagine when you are like, you can't even feel what's going on? It means it's utter horror. That's how I understand it. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ غَافِلًا عَمَّا. Yeah, okay. So this description of the Day of Judgment, actually it's not a description of the Day of Judgment, it's the description of the wrongdoers on the Day of Judgment. And it's so graphic that we can imagine, it's almost like we are with them and you feel their horrible plight when they realize the situation. Because in this world, that's what ghafla is, or the ghafla, or totally not even ghafla. It's like ghafla, it's for the believer when they forget, it's living in utter mindlessness. But there, everyone will realize the truth of their situation, the reality of their situation. And they'll be so taken aback that they'll stare with eyes wide open, fixed straight in front of them. And we're not told what they see, if they see anything. It's left to our imagination. And it could be because they are so horrified at realizing how horrible their deeds were. In Surah Al-Zumar, Surah 39, there is a nice passage from Ayah 48 to 54. We are told the evil of their deeds will become plain to them. So on the Day of Judgment, the evil of people's deed will become obvious, clear to them. In this world, either we are unaware, we justify things, we rationalize them, we make them look good, we lie to ourselves before we lie to other people. And we don't, so when we are warned here, prepare yourself, stop, reflect. What is, because it is possible to see the truth of what we are doing here and now. It's not only in Akhirah, it will be maybe clearer with all the interconnections and everything, but still it is possible here. If we stop and reflect, then we will have that muhasaba, then we will be able to change our ways, ask for help. And that's why we ask for help anyways, because the more intentionally we live, the more we become aware of how fragile we are and how easy it is to deviate from the right path. Actually, we need divine help and strength and to keep us on the right path. And that's why we keep asking for forgiveness constantly, because I could be doing something that's harming me and others and I'm not even aware of it. So I ask, I don't know, but you know, so please make it clear for me. Of course, the niyyah, the intention is that when something is clear, I will let it go immediately. I won't say, no, but I can't let it go because of this and this and this and that. That's the surrender, is saying, yes, I follow whatever whatever is I'm guided onto, because I don't know, only God knows. So we're told in Sura 39, Ayah 48, the evil of their deeds will become plain to them on that day, and they will be overwhelmed by that at which they used to laugh. When an affliction befalls human, when an affliction befalls human being, he cries out unto us for help. But when we favor him with our blessing, he says to himself, I have been given all this by virtue of my own knowledge. This sounds very familiar. Nay, this is only a trial, but most of them do not know. Those who lived before them said the same thing, but what they achieved was of no use to them. Okay, you think you did it with your own knowledge. Whatever you achieve is of no use, because this dunya is fani, this world is transient. We are going back to him, so we better live with that awareness, with that consciousness in the presence of God here and now, before it's too late. They suffered its evil effects. So whatever they achieved was no use of them. Actually, they suffered the evil effects of whatever they achieved. Why? Because they appropriated to themselves. So at least from there was an element of shirk. So they didn't see, at least there will be no fruits of those. Even the good deeds will have no fruits in the hereafter when we appropriate it to ourselves. And we appropriate it to ourselves all the time when we are not consciously, intentionally being aware that it is given, it is done unto us, it is given to us, it is a blessing. And therefore, instead of feeding our ego and pride, it should increase our gratitude and surrender and trust in God alone. And so they suffered the evil effects of what they achieved. Today's wrongdoers will also suffer the evil effects of their deeds. They will not be able to escape. Do they not know that God provides abundantly for anyone he wills and gives sparingly to anyone he wills? There truly are signs in this for those who will believe. If you are open to believing, even when God gives abundantly, it becomes a sign to believe in God. When he gives sparingly, it becomes also a sign to realize that it is God who is giving. I'm exerting the same efforts and I'm not getting any result. It always works in a way that I don't get anything. But next to me, the person is doing the same thing and they are getting the fruit of what they are doing. So there are two attitudes. I can say, when I get the fruits, I achieved all this. And instead of being grateful, I become a mushrik. And when things are not given to me, if I am a believer, it can be a sign and an opportunity to believe that truly it's not from me, truly it is given. And look at, I made the same effort, but it was not given to me. And instead, or I could make it as something to complain. as it said in the earlier ayah. When an affliction befalls human, he cries out, he cries out for help. When things are given to him, he says, it was given to me by virtue of my own knowledge. Yes, it was given, but it was because of me. God says, "Oh, my servant who have transgressed against your own selves," and we do that all the time, we transgress our own selves, "by your own excess, do not despair of God's mercy. Behold, God forgives all sins. He's truly the most forgiving, the most merciful." قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. For behold, God, for truly He alone is much forgiving, much merciful. I love this ayah, alhamdulillah. So, has turned towards your sustainer alone. وأنيبوا إلى ربكم وأسلموا له من قبل أن يأتيكم العذاب ثم لا تنصرون. Therefore, turn towards your Rabb, your sustainer alone, and surrender yourselves unto Him before the punishment overtakes you and you cannot be helped. It will be over. So the message in the Quran is, mashallah, very clear. And from these passages, we understand that on the Day of Judgment, everyone will see the reality of their hearts. We will all see how we lived our lives. And therefore, the Messenger of God is told to warn people of that day before it's too late. And in the next ayah, ayah 44, we are told, hence warn people of the day when punishment will come to them, and when those who did wrong will exclaim, "O our sustainer, reprieve us from a short time. Give us a little more time, and we shall respond to your call and follow the messengers." But God will answer, "Why? Did you not swear in the past that you would never meet your downfall? Literally, that there would be no going down whatever for you?" وأنذر الناس يوم يأتيهم العذاب فيقول الذين ظلموا ربنا أخرنا إلى أجل قريب نجب دعوتك ونتبع الرسل أولم تكونوا أقسمتم من قبل ما لكم من زوال. Meaning that you thought there would be no life in the hereafter, no retribution of sins. And this is a reference. Sorry? So this is a reference to either people who refuse to believe in the life after death, and hence in God's ultimate judgment. It's a theme that is repeated in the Quran. And so, of course, there are those who categorically, completely deny the hereafter, and there are those who do not deny God, they do not deny the hereafter, but they live as though there were no hereafter, as though there were no God, as though God and hereafter is not part of our daily life, part of who we are about, part of what the world is about. And this is because, we repeat it again and again, we repeat all the time, that their belief is not based on evidences in the creation. They do not perceive the creation, everything is creation, as ayat, which the ayat also constantly remind the believers of God and the hereafter, here and now. So God is aware of what we are doing now. And that is why we make istighfar constantly, because we're so weak that we're not even always aware of our wrongdoings. So we ask God to forgive us, to protect us from shirk, from the wrong of our own selves, as we pray, Allahumma alhimni rushdi wa a'idni min sharri nafsi. It's a prayer that everyone repeats all the time. Sometimes it's wa aqini min sharri nafsi, or it can be used in the plural as well. Allahumma alhimna rushdana wa a'idna min sharri anfusina. Oh God, inspire us in guidance and deliver us from the bad within ourselves. And on the Day of Judgment, we will be the day of judgment itself will be so awesome that the wrongdoers would wish they were dust, we are told. Ya laytani kuntu turaba. In Sura 78, ayah 40, we are told, truly, we have warned you of suffering near at hand, suffering on the day when human shall clearly see what his hand have sent ahead, whatever we've done in this world. And when he who has denied the truth shall say, oh, would that I were mere dust. But in his infinite mercy, God is telling us of that awesome day now, so that we prepare accordingly right now, before it's too late. Alhamdulillah, hada min fadli Rabbi. So the wrongdoers will ask on that day, O our sustainer, give us some more time, and we shall respond to your call and follow the messengers. But it will be too late. On the day of judgment, it will be too late. They won't be sent back to life. And as we're told in another ayah, even if people are given another opportunity, they'd do the same thing again. And we can understand why, because everything is pretty clear already in this life. If when we follow the divine guidance, the more intentionally we live with divine guidance, we will start interacting with everything as ayat, and everything will be clear. There is no need to wait for the hereafter. On the day of judgment, it's too late. But those who are unwilling to listen and reflect and follow the messenger and live by the light of divine guidance, whether you send them in a second time, they will do the same thing again. Because if they had any intention, we are not given only 1 day, 1 year. We are given a whole lifetime. Every day is a new opportunity for us to make that intention, to stop and say, okay, there is death. So what's going on after death? I better find out. If there is no death, if there is nothing after death, nothing to worry about, anything. All our emotions, even our sense of indignation against injustice will be nonsense, because if there is nothing after death, everything goes. But if there is life after death, then just a minute, we need to stop now. We have to make sure, because everything will change then. How we live our life, everything, the meaning of everything is going to change. And for those who are willing to stop and take it seriously in this life, then they will find out that with the light of divine guidance, their paths will be enlightened in this life, and they can see the inner truth of everything as they pertain to God and Akhirah, before the day of judgment. We're told in Surah Al-An'am, which is Surah 6, from ayah 21 to 32. And who could be more wicked than he who slanders God and gives the lie to his ayat? Truly, such wrongdoers will never attain to a happy state. So those who slanders God, they give the lie to his ayat. Traditionally, it's been understood only denying the ayat in the Quran. However, in the Quran, we are told that everything in creation is ayat. So I could be saying, okay, I'm a Muslim. This is the Quran. Put it there in the shelf. I read it every year in Ramadan. But it's not my guide for my daily life. And therefore, I do not realize that everything created, every being, every event is also an ayah. So denying when I do not realize that everything is an ayah, actually I am not interacting with the Quran as ayat from God. I'm just reading it as a text and pass. It's a sacred good, which is okay, but not enough. It is not enough. It is correct, but insufficient. It is guidance. You have to not only read the words, but if it tells you, go and do this, go and check, this is what, when we were reading Surah Al-Ra'd, for instance, if it says, go and check the thunder, check this and that, then you have to go and check it, otherwise we are not reading the Quran. So from this we understand that the next area, and all these things are related to Akhirah. This is something that we keep repeating. When we live with ghafla, we are unaware of the transience of the world. We live as though the world is enduring, and therefore, as though there were no ayat, as though there was nothing telling us about God, and therefore that we will have no true belief in God, no true knowledge and love of God, because the creation will be in our perception, in our misperception, it will be disconnected from its creator. And so, therefore, we have no longing to meet our Rabb. We don't see, we don't feel, we do not relate to God as our Rabb, as the one who takes care of all our needs. And we don't long to meet him. We remain unaware of the meeting of the hereafter. The next ayah, 622, we are told, for one day we shall gather them all together, and then we shall say unto those who commit shirk, who ascribe divinity to things besides God, to ascribe power to things besides God, where now are those beings whom you imagined were sources of anything besides God? Where are these objects of shirk? Whereupon, in their confusion, they will only be able to say, by God, our sustainer. You see, they are saying our sustainer, our Rabb. On that day, everyone will know the sustainer. We were not mushrikeen. ما كنا مشركين. We did not commit shirk. We were not mushrikeen. So these people believe they are believers. They do not deny God. Behold how they have lied to themselves, and how their objects of shirk have forsaken them. If you see them when they will be made to stand before the fire, and they will say, oh, would that we were brought back to life. Then we would not give the lie, we would not deny our Rabb's ayat Rabbina. But we would be among the believers. So they will regret when they are at the door by the fire, they will say, we wish we would go back to life. And what would they do? We will recognize our Rabb's ayat, because the ayat shows us rububiyyah. They indicate rububiyyah. And then we will be among the believers. The true believers are those who interact with everything as the ayat of their Rabbs. They see rububiyyah in everything. Otherwise, it's just superficial belief. It doesn't transform us. But nay, they will say this only because the truth which they used to conceal from themselves in the past will have become obvious to them, and the truth will be obvious to everyone on that day. And we'd better face that truth now and do something and pray and ask for help and to transform it and change it before it's too late. And if they were brought back to life, they would return to the very thing which was forbidden to them. For behold, they are indeed liars. Which means if you do not take this opportunity in this life, every day is a new opportunity, just because you saw. And in this life, Allah subhanahu, He gives us many opportunities, many instances of crisis when we are put in that situation. It's like a mini day of judgment. Everyone goes through crisis where it's many days of judgments. And it's up to us whether we use it as an opportunity or crumble underneath it and become depressed and complain and whatever. It's up to us. Every crisis is an opportunity. And it's up to our intention. And here it says, even if we send them back, it would make no difference. They would do the same thing again, because that's what they used to do in in life. And they say there is nothing beyond our life in this world, for we shall not be raised from the dead. So if these people are saying we were not mushriks, how come they said there is nothing beyond our life in this world? It means it's not their openly admitted belief, but it's their inner unchecked belief. That's what controls their lives. That's how they live, as if they will never be raised from the dead, as if there is no akhirah. All the planning and all our goals in life have nothing to do. If they have nothing to do with akhirah, we'd better stop and ask why. What's underneath it? What's truly our belief? Because our true belief is what we live by, not what we claim. And so in Ayah 31, we are told, lost indeed are they who consider it a lie that they will have to meet God. Till the last hour suddenly comes unto them, and they cry, alas for us that we disregarded it, for they shall bear on their backs their burdens, and how evil are their burdens. And the life of this world is nothing but a play and a passing delight, and the life in the hereafter is by far the better for those who are conscious of God. Will you then not use your reason? So from this passage, it is clear that recognizing the ayat is the way to genuine tawheed, as I keep repeating because it's so important, and that the ayat are the way we get evidence against shirk and for tawheed, because once we perceive everything, every event as ayah, as a sign, then we are protected from falling into shirk, because nothing will be a means of forgetting God and akhirah. On the contrary, everything being an ayah will actually remind us of the reality of creation, will remind us of the purpose on earth, will remind us of God and akhirah. And so recognizing the ayat is also incumbent on being aware that this life is passing and everything is transient. Because when we forget that this life is passing, we don't see that constant flow of creativity. And we do not realize that God makes everything speak through that constant flow of rububiyyah, of creativity. And he makes everything into an ayah that speaks to us, that has a message for us. And so the next ayah in Surah Ibrahim, ayah 45, reminds us that many generations and peoples lived before us in these exact places where we are living now, subhanallah. How transient this world is. We can just stop and close your eyes and imagine in this, wherever you are living right now, how many generations lived, and they all passed away. And we are told, yet you inhabited the same places as those who had wronged themselves before, and it was made clear to you how we had dealt with them, for we have given you many examples, many parables. وسكنتم في مساكين الذين ظلموا أنفسهم وتبين لكم كيف فعلنا بهم وضربنا لكم الأمثال. And I'll stop here, inshallah. We will talk about 45 and 46 next week, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. استغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina. Is there anyone who wants to make a comment or ask a question at this time?
It's nice to at least say what you got from it, even if it's 1 or 2 sentences. So we all get to share how we're benefiting from it. Maybe you benefited in a way that someone else had not seen. That's the the barakah, the blessing of the jama'ah, of people studying together. We benefit from each other's reflections, inshallah. And if I have something wrong, then you say we also check each other.
There were a lot of crucial points throughout the discourse. Inshallah, we can live according to these beautiful realities. I mean, from the fact that we only hurt ourselves, and we can relatively numb ourselves here, but there is a time where we won't be able to escape the ultimate consequences, and therefore we need to be sure about where we are going and the ayat. And then the verse that you mentioned, responding to God's call in Surah 8, verse 24, responding to the call of God, that was very beautiful, because immediately it said, and the messenger, whenever he calls you. So that's an example of how God is speaking. So the call of God, but I don't see God directly. Well, you see the messenger. When the messenger is calling, then God is calling, and we can apply it to everything in life too. I don't see the life giver, but you see life coming through water. So
that's a messenger as well.
That's a messenger as well, and we live in a world of asbab, these seeming causes, and if we can look at them, more carefully, then inshallah we can see God's hand behind events, God's compassion and wisdom, guiding us through life, taking us through life. Instead of just being, heedless and thinking that there are certain things God does and certain things other people do. I mean, the famous joke, I think most of us here know this joke. The person who was looking for a parking lot, right? He is in a busy street. He's looking for a parking lot, and then he starts praying, "Oh God, please, please, a parking spot." And immediately, as soon as he says that, a car right in front of him, a parked car, just pulls out, and the man says, "Oh God, never mind, I find my spot." And as if, what was he expecting? God is gonna send lightning and then open a spot. Like in life, we live through this unaware, superficial way of looking at life and not seeing. Inshallah, we can see. Inshallah, that I want to end in that hope and in the dua.
So we remind each other and remind ourselves and remind each other.
Inshallah, because the rest of the verse, that verse Surah 8:24, respond to the call of God and the messenger whenever he calls you, onto which that gives you life. So this is a path, it's enlightening. This is a path that's giving life. Inshallah, I pray that we can get into the path without further delay.
That's beautiful. Lima yuhyikum, to what gives you life, because anything else is not true human full potential life in this world, and in the hereafter it's a disaster. The only way to fulfill the human potential in this life, and so that it blooms in the hereafter, is through following the messengers. That's why this surah is about following the messenger. Following the messenger means following the message. Actually, it's about following the message, but you can only follow the message through the messenger. Subhanallah.
I have a different question. Yamina, you said that people will wish they had a second chance to live, to do better, but in fact they won't, even if they were given a second chance at life. Now, how is that? Because I'm thinking, I'm applying this to myself. Am I doing this now as well? Why is it that people who regret wasting their life?
Because if we truly are sincere, we are given many opportunities to regret and make tawbah and get back in this world. So if we didn't take any opportunity, it's saying if we give you one more opportunity, it won't. You are lying because you missed all the opportunities. So if we're missing all the opportunities, it means that we don't have the intention. People who have the intention, subhanallah, it is made so that not only those who are ready, if you are ready, anything will become an opportunity to get back on track. But even people who are very like their heart is closed, they are given opportunity upon opportunity, and sometimes things are made so clear that you see that this person just does not want. Like in this life, of course, we can see that. Like, that's why it says, this is in Surah Al-An'am, in Surah 6, Ayah 27, we are told when they will be made to stand before the fire, they will say, oh, we wish we would be brought back to life. Then we would not give the lie to our Rabb's ayah, and we will be among the believers. And in 28, it says, no. The truth is that they won't change because they are lying, because it's not, I understand it this way. It's not because they could not understand the reality. It's not because they had no hint that maybe there is something. Maybe these things, whatever is happening, has some meaning. It's not because they didn't feel that, they didn't see it. It's because even though they saw it, even though they felt it, even though actually sometimes it's compelling that everything has a purpose, they decided on a certain level that what is it to me? I have better things to do with my life. Which means at the end, the bottom of all this, they were unwilling to surrender. So it's not because we didn't understand. Now that we, in Akhirah, everything will be clear, everyone will understand. So they will say, okay, now we understood, let us go back and we will repair this position. Says, no, because that was not your problem. Problem is not like you didn't understand, that's why you were stuck in shirk. The problem is you were not willing to surrender. And so you will go back and do the same thing again. Very quickly, you will again forget, and very quickly you will again justify and rationalize everything. And this is something we can apply to ourselves here and now. That's why we keep making istighfar, because, just in case, and we make istighfar and we keep renewing our intention. Yes, my intention is to surrender. I will surrender. This is, I'm sharing now my personal practice. It's like, I will surrender whatever happens. Like this week, I was very sick. There were moments where I cried out of pain. I was saying the same thing because it's something that I do all the time. We are not here. Yes, now it's time to seek for help and seek for health, but we were not created to be healthy. Health is to get to know God as the healer and to be grateful. That's the aim. The being healthy is a means. The fact that we are sick, we are made to need health, that's also a means to make us grateful, to connect us to our Rabb. So the practice is, yes, I surrender. Whatever is happening, it's happening for God. I surrender even when I don't understand. I surrender, I trust. And so it makes it easier in times of hardship to surrender. In times of everything is like health, alhamdulillah, today has been much better. In times of health, then it's, you remember to be grateful. It's not from me. It's me, I'm careful about my diet or this and this, that's why I'm healthy. No. Subhanallah, during this week, maybe I don't know if I shared with Maha. I didn't feel hunger and I didn't feel thirst. So hunger, it's okay. I know that if you don't eat, actually it's better for the body because it repairs itself. But with water, I felt like I should drink something. So I was forcing myself to drink. Subhanallah, I realized something. I was sharing with Isra, like how we learned that, okay, we feel thirst because the body needs it. Well, my body needed it. It was the same body, but I didn't feel the thirst. Actually, didn't feel like drinking. So the very fact that we are given the thirst, then we are made aware of our need for water, is another ni'mah, another blessing. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know that. So how can I claim that it's because I'm doing something that I'm healthy or I'm wealthy or whatever we have? So if we are willing to surrender, everything will be made clear in this world, and we have plenty of opportunities. And in the hereafter, however much people may regret, they will not regret it because they could not see the reality clearly, but because they were unwilling to surrender. And therefore, if they are sent back, they had seen clearly the reality, but we see clearly the reality here as well, especially in times of crisis. We see that we are utterly needy. We see that we are utterly weak, that everything is done unto us. And instead of surrendering very quickly, as it says in the ayah, when they need help, they call God, and when He gives them blessings, they say, "Oh, it was given to me, but because of some knowledge I had." So it's said for Qarun, but it is also said for everyone of us, if you see what I mean. And that's why this message is given to us now. It's not when we die, when we go to Akhirah on the Day of Judgment, we will see if this message is true or not. That will be too late. This ayah in the Quran is given to me now. I need to confirm it now. How do I confirm it? I look at my life, at what is created around me, within me, and I find out that truly this is haqq, this is true. And therefore, I make the decision, the intention and decision, inshallah, to surrender whatever is going on and ask for help, because I know that I am weak. And I make istighfar all the time, because we talked about istighfar. Istighfar is not only after we make a mistake. The Prophet ﷺ says he made istighfar 70 times a day, meaning in Arabic it's an idiom for constantly. He constantly made istighfar. For what? For the possibility of going astray. We don't have to, it starts with a thought, and it starts with a thought, with a doubt. But that thought and doubt could be an opportunity to grow. If I am aware of it, I say, oh, what's going on? And is it true? When I say, is it true? I start finding out the answers from the Quran, and then my iman grows, my certainty grows. But if I am unaware, I start acting on those thoughts. They become when they are repeated, they become beliefs, and they start controlling who I am, shaping who I am, and I start deviating from the path of surrender without realizing. But am I responsible? Yes, because I didn't make the effort to live intentionally as I am asked to do in the Quran. And that's why we pray for each other. Like Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's praying not only for himself, but for all the believers. So when we make those prayers, we are praying for each other. We need so much prayer. But alhamdulillah, we have that option. You just pray, and if the intention is with it, that prayer becomes like, as we were told earlier in Surah Ibrahim, a tree that gives plenty of fruits in this world and in the next, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for both the question and the answer. Same with me. I have that question too sometimes, but what convinces me is this fact that there are a lot of plenty of opportunities. It's one life, but it's not one life. It's every day, and many times. Small opportunities also make large decisions we constantly find ourselves making in terms of our existential relation. And there's this verse came to mind, verse Sura 9, verse 126, and the Asad translation reads as follows: "Are they then not aware that they are being tested year in, year out, and yet they do not repent and they do not bethink themselves? استعوذ بالله ولا يرون أنهم يفتنون في كل عام مرة أو مرتين ثم لا يتوبون ولا هم يذكرون." So we constantly get, different opportunities, and maybe respond to them.
Wake up calls.
Yeah.
That we have everything all the time. For the muhsin, everything all the time is a reminder. However, just in case we forget, we delve into ghafla. There is again, this is telling us we have extra once or twice a year main wake up calls. Like for me, this week was a main wake up call.
And like
24/7, I could not sleep. Subhanallah. We take sleep for granted. Yani, I was not. I know that sleep is a ni'mah, but it was not in my list of alhamdulillah for sleep, because I used to take it for granted. But this week it was like a main wake up call. Like, what are you doing? Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Is there anybody else who wants to share a comment or ask a question? Sister Huda?
Yes. I shared something with Maha last week. I told her that I know why I don't trust Allah is due to the fact that I don't trust myself. And I think it's goes with the fact that, I know what my physical existence in this world is about. And I feel there is a disconnection, or there's a disconnect between my physical being and my spiritual being. And I want to thank you so much, Yamina, for today, for really, subhanAllah, just bringing it all together. And now I see I've connected the two, and there, I am, what am I? I'm a spiritual being that has all of Allah's, Allah breathed in me. So I have I have Allah. I'm carrying the teaching of Allah. So today, surrender to me is not just, I come from that typical school of teaching where you surrender means you fast and you pray. So surrender to me, as I'm, learning, it's more than just praying and being a good Muslim. Surrender is really full acceptance of me, all of me, the physical form and the spiritual form. And it's also acceptance of my nature, why I'm here. I understand now the verse in the Quran why I often wondered. I had similar questions of my Maha answers. I often wonder, isn't it kind of cruel that those people are saying, please, Allah give us a second chance, we'll make it right. I know that they've had all the chances in the world, but as a human being in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, well, that's kind of like really not fair that they're not given a second chance. And then after thinking about it, now I understand why. They could have given it a second, a third, a fourth. They could come back as many times as they want. They're not going to change because they haven't made that connection, the connection between their spiritual being, their soul, and their physical existence in this world. So thank you so much. I hope I'm making sense. I mean, I thank you so much for basically making me feel whole. I feel whole. I feel that I am together, and that part of the struggles of not trusting Allah is because it's or the issues with the tawakkul. It starts with me. I am not fully connected. I'm not fully together. So once this connection is made, then I can understand why the things that I have to do. So it's more than just, I have to fast, I have to pray, I have to make sure that, I don't do this haram thing or whatever. It's more than that, a lot more. So I understand why in the verse it says that even if you're set back, you're not going to change because you are a disconnected being, all of you, from, Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. When we start connecting, actually Tawheed is making one. We make ourselves one, and we start not only me here, but with the whole creation, we become one. They become like an extension of me. I become aware of our connection, and that we are all coming from one and being created right now by one. That's to that extent, as you said, we become aware of God as our Rabb. Then the fasting and the salat, the prayers and everything, all the ibadat, we will realize how they are put there. They are the pillars that facilitates that connection, that strengthens and nourishes and maintains and sustain that connection, inshallah. So it becomes a joy to fast, a joy to pray, and inshallah.
Yeah, and subhanallah, I was taught the other way around.
Like a bird.
You pray first and you do these things and you feel, and you hear the hellfire, then you're going to make the connection.
And
When
it's
really,
your duty. It becomes like a duty. What has nothing to do with me, but like it's a price I have to pay. Whether in fact it's not a price I have to pay. It is a gift I receive, and I celebrate and enjoy, and I'm grateful for. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for sharing. For that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair. Any final comment or question? Okay. Jazakumullah khair, everyone, for your comments and questions. It's really nice to hear different voices and contributions. It definitely becomes a way of enriching each other, bi'idhnillah. And Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina, for traveling with us, taking us through this Quran and the Surah. Inshallah, we'll meet again next week. Jazakumullah khair again, Sister Yamina.
Thank you, Jazakumullah khair. Let's keep each other in prayer, inshallah, and pray for me. I'm barely recovering today, inshallah.
Inshallah, and you pray for us too, because you're in a more special state now. Inshallah, Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. Fi amanillah.
Fi amanillah.